President Donald Trump, apparently a fan of FBN.com, not to brag, but the president tweeting the following headline from our website. S&P edges higher after Trump renews jobs pledge. So the S&P 500 did rise 0.1%, and the Dow Industrials closed at another fresh high. Joining us now to talk about the outlook for the markets is Fox News contributor and Kadina Group president Gary B. Smith. Gary, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
All right. So the markets have been very positive on the prospect of tax reform, deregulation, and government spending. Stephen Mnuchin is saying August for tax reform. But how will the effects be felt if we don't see some of these plans fleshed out soon?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we have a window of opportunity of maybe a month or two. They keep talking about we have plans in place to repeal Obamacare. We have plans in place for tax reform. And I think that's been good enough to kind of get the market spirits up. So let's see, it's late February. I think if we don't see something, at least a proposal by, say, April or May, I know I'm going to start to get worried. I think the market probably goes, as I talked earlier, maybe flat till then. Boy, if we don't start to see something, I think the market could start to drift down after that.
Gary B. Smith, worried? I don't believe it. Okay.
In the market, Lauren, I'm worried every single day. I'm optimistic, but I'm always, a little worried. Been through too many bad markets not to be a little bit worried.
Yeah. Goldman Sachs, some analysts there came out with a report earlier in the week, Gary, and they were talking about we're at this point, and this is the quote, maximum optimism in the markets. And you were touching on this earlier. It's this hope that we see all of these pro-business policies coming. But if that timetable gets pushed back, the markets are going to fall, no?
Yeah. That's a good phrase, maximum optimism. I think there is a lot baked into the market. There could be a lot more. But you know what? I think the only thing the market hasn't seen is any of the downside. Look, we all bet, or a good part of the people bet on Trump coming through with his promises. I think he's trying to do the best he can. I think he's a new politician, as are many in his administration, most. And they might be a little naive on how long it takes to get things done. Certainly, we've seen nothing from a Republican congressman yet. So maximum optimism, yeah, maybe we'll be looking back on that in August, September, and saying, my gosh, nothing happened. There goes the great animal spirits. I am, as you point out, though, Lauren, hopeful and optimistic.
So you mentioned President Trump, and he told Reuters that China is the grand champion of currency manipulation. Of course, Stephen Mnuchin taking a much more cautious approach in his wording. So I guess my question is, how much power does the president have in this economy with his words?
A lot short term, almost none long term. I think you saw that all the presidents I've been in. Yeah, you might get a bump here or there. We saw a bump the other day in the market when Trump talked about jobs. But long term, it's all going to be those gigantic market forces. It's going to be what the Fed does. I wouldn't put too much faith. Everyone says, look what Trump does instead of what he says. I think that's good advice for any investor. Look for the concrete actions rather than the words he says.
And we'll be waiting to see what the Fed does in March with the possible interest rate hike coming.
Yeah. One really quick, Gary. We're 190 points away from Dow 21,000. Do we get there in when? 21. 21
I don't think so. I looked at the market action yesterday, and it just looked a little weak. 21,000 would be a real stretch. Look, I hope we get there. I think we're maybe a couple weeks away from that, though.
All right. Thank you.
Gary Smith, Kadina Group president, thanks for joining us.